The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And tonight on the Rita Cosby Show, the fears of socialism. The Democratic Socialists of America unveiling their platform. And boy, it is a doozy. It's very anti-Israel. It's anti-American in so many different ways. And it comes where it seems like the Democrats don't even care if they're present for any sort of hearing, even if the mission is a very noble mission. Senate Democrats skipped a hearing today on exposing fraud. There was one Democrat who showed up for a bleep of time, and that was it, on a hearing on massive fraud that takes place in the Medicare system. They couldn't even make it to show up there. Meanwhile, people testifying and exposing fraud on so many different levels. And for that reason, it just shows that they just don't care. I think they truly just do not care. And then you also have other layers to this. There was this vote today, as I mentioned. This is the National Defense Authorization Act. And earlier we talked to Senator Dan Sullivan about it. And every Democrat present didn't vote for the Defense Authorization Act for it to be debated and brought to the floor. I guess they feel like national defense isn't important. I mean, that's a scary premise. And then about 100 Democrats in the House voted against military funding for Israel. This is a whole new breed of Democrats. This is not like your mother or grandmother's Democratic Party. The Democratic Socialists are vehement, no support of Israel. They want to abolish the War Department, the Pentagon. That's just part and parcel of some of the things they unveiled. Abolishing the Senate was another thing they put in their mantra. Can you imagine that? Abolishing the Supreme Court. Amnesty for all illegal migrants, including pedophiles, like the one that Tim Walz pardoned. Abolishing police, ICE, prisons. Punishing individual agents, no border. Elimination of cash bail, Medicare for all. A 32-hour work week, and a wealth tax against wealthy individuals. These people have no clue how a free system works. And here is Ari Fleischer, former White House press secretary, talking about this new socialist agenda.
You know, part of it is being anti-Israel, but the other part of it is being anti-America. And that is the deeper strain that's driving a lot of the behaviors inside the Democratic Party right now. Take what recently happened. You've got Congresswoman, soon to be Chevalier from Manhattan, who's founded a group that advocated for the, quote, total eradication of Western civilization. In Colorado, you have a woman who just won her Democratic primary. She'll go on to become Congresswoman from Denver. She blamed September 11th on the United States. You've got in the other parts of New York City, Claire Valdez, who advocated for nationalizing the airline industry. These ideas don't come from stem from love of America. They don't come from what you were just talking about, problem solving, individual success, the things that have always proudly differentiated ourselves from our European fathers and grandfathers. This is the difference that made America the innovative, individualized nation we are. They believe in collectivism, and they want to have a collectivism that replaces what we know to be the United States because they can't stand the United States.
That is a very strong statement, and I agree with Ari Fleischer. This is very dangerous, and it seems like the Democrats are getting walked all over. They seem to be accepting it because they're afraid that they're going to get primaried. They're not going to have the support of these folks. So instead, they're turning a blind eye, and that is acquiescing, and that is allowing a cancer to come into your party. And God forbid they end up taking the House or something like that in the midterms. Imagine the kind of investigations and things that they will do, the blocks they will try to do on President Trump. We talked about Jack Smith in the last hour here on the Rita Cosby Show. Imagine how many different individual type investigations will they try to push, at least from the House, if they were to get the House. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. And meantime, here is one of the Democratic Socialists. This is Michaela Brangen. She was on a podcast and sort of a private phone meeting, also sort of a private video conference, if you will, that took place yesterday when they were unveiling this platform that we talked about, this crazy platform. And this is what she had to say. She said it with a straight face, like, maybe you don't have to pay any bills. I mean, it sounds good. No wonder, like, people say, God, it sounds like a great idea. But this is nuts. Take a listen.
And you don't have to have a job just to pay the bills because you don't have a lot of bills, right? Bills are no longer a thing because there's not for-profit businesses that are constantly trying to exploit you and trying to, put you into debt. And then you might just have like a normal day, right? Like you could actually have the freedom to move around. And so part of what we're trying to do is dispel the idea that socialism is just about like bureaucracy, meetings, order, or anything like that. It actually is about freedom. It's about people being able to be themselves. It's about people being able to actually flourish under a system where they're not constantly being exploited and where they're not constantly worried about these basic things it takes to live. If you don't have to worry about the basic things it takes to live, then you can thrive, right? And then you can actually lead your life instead of just survive.
So I guess if you don't have to pay your bills, if you don't have to worry about any of that stuff, then I guess everything's fine. And, let's just tiptoe through the tulips, right? That's essentially, this is so out of touch and so clueless and again, so dangerous. And especially people that have seen socialism/communism up close, they're deeply, deeply concerned. And one of them is Carlos Jimenez. He is a Republican from Florida. And his family came and they fled Cuba. He arrived in the United States after the communist takeover of his native homeland, and he settled into sort of the little Havana neighborhood, if you will, in Miami. But he knows firsthand, and his family knows firsthand, what happens with socialism/communism. And he had a big warning today to America, and especially to the Democrats of America. Take a listen.
You think I'm a little emotional? Yeah, damn right I'm emotional, all right? Because my family came here seeking freedom. And I'll be damned if I'm going to have to pack up my family to look for freedom somewhere else. By the way, where are we going to go? And so, yeah, bring it on. I'll fight the communists to the death because I know what it brings. I know the future it will bring to my children and my grandchildren, and it's a pack of lies. And people that believe in this ideology are one of two things. They're either idiots or they're evil because they want to take your freedom away.
And in the last hour or so, CENTCOM announcing that the U.S. is launching new strikes on military targets in Iran. They hit it twice today during the daytime and hit it again tonight. Clearly, President Trump trying to pound Iran into finally submitting, finally agreeing to negotiate in good faith and come to the table. So far, you could tell President Trump the last week or two is fed up. And again, now in just a 24-hour period, less than that, another round of strikes against some key Iranian military targets. It's reportedly drones, where some of the storage is, also missile sites, other things. Clearly going after key things tied to the Strait of Hormuz and some of these attacks that Iran continues to do randomly on various ships in the Strait of Hormuz. And of course, we'll keep you posted as soon as we get new word. But in just the last few minutes, the U.S. has started launching a new fresh round on Iranian military targets there, and particularly ones around the Strait of Hormuz. And we talked about Tim Walz because, boy, I couldn't believe that he made this response. And now we have the audio. It just came in. This is Tim Walz offering a really stunning response to the Trump administration deporting that illegal migrant from Laos who was convicted of raping a 10-year-old girl. Again, Tim Walz was on the pardon board. The Board of Pardons decided to give this guy a break, even though he was in the country illegally. And guess what? They said, oh, no, we want to have illegal pedophile migrants in our country. Seemed to be making excuses for the guy. And then Marco Rubio and the State Department found out about it. They revoked any sort of status of the guy and deported him. Why would you want somebody like this in the country? And now, tonight, you'll hear this, as we'll all hear this together, Tim Walz doubling down and once again defending the pedophile. Listen to what he says. This horrible pedophile is deported. You would think anybody with half a brain would say this is great news. Why would you ever want to have somebody like this in our country? And yet, Tim Walz seems to be siding with the pedophile and questioning why this monster was deported. Listen to this one. Here it is.
In this case, I would state this, that I can find no reason how Minnesota will be safer or better if Mr. Vang is deported to a country he has not been to since he was a child.
Fox 9 reports Vang's victim wrote a letter to the board forgiving him, and they say that was a key factor in their move to pardon Vang.
I mean, how is the country safer? You can hear that from one of the reports, the news reports. So how is it safer to send him back to a country that he hasn't been to since he was a child? I'm sorry, I don't really care where the guy goes. He can go to hell for all I care. You know what I mean? You got to be kidding me. That the guy, that Tim Walz is worried that maybe the guy is in a country that the guy doesn't know that well. And that maybe he feels sorry for him going back to Laos because he hasn't been there, I guess, since he was a child. And I guess we're supposed to be sending him back to a place where he could get cupcakes and cream and milk and cookies and whatever else. You know, I mean, this is just crazy. Absolutely crazy. And I want to go a little further into what Tim Walz says. He said, does it make us any safer? Did that make the children that are left behind any more stable? And then he says, did it improve the idea that we can't all be judged by our worst day? That's shocking. What, his worst day? What about the worst day of the 10-year-old child? Boy, did they have their priorities out of whack. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Fran in Massapequa on line 2. Fran, this is stunning to hear Tim Walz say that.
Well, Rita, first of all, I just want to say, as I always say, you are a wonderful beacon of truth. I love you, and my goal is to meet you because you're an inspiration. And
thank you, Fran.
You know what the problem is? Like, you heard that Republican before. You know, Republicans talk a tough game, but the tough talk is over because the damage is done. Obama has infiltrated the court system. Look what they're doing to Trump. You know what I'm saying? And then not only that, look at the school system. It's completely infiltrated. Kids that are now 30 and under are completely brain poisoned. They think America's no good. They think white people hate black people. They think that black people are treated like absolute garbage in this country. It's so bad, and now it's finally coming through. Tim Walz doesn't care about that 10-year-old girl. He's never going to meet her or see her. He doesn't care. Liberals don't have a soul. They don't have a heart. They care about one thing, and that's hating Republicans and taking power. They want to change everything. Can you imagine how disgusting and despicable this country would be if Kamala, I don't even want to say her name, Harris, won the election, if they would have stole another one from us? I mean, it's ridiculous, the stuff that they get away with. No one from the Democratic side is in jail. Trump had people on his side. He had a general, I think, or whatever he was in the army. I don't remember the names. People sent to jail. Their houses were raided. Okay, Trump's house was raided. And these people sit there and talk about, war, the Trump going after them, political warfare, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. It's like totally juxtaposing, and saying, he went after us. Are you kidding me? Look at the perfect example. You brought up what happened with Trump with the classified documents. We all know what happened under the classified documents. They raided Mar-a-Lago. They literally went through Melania's underwear drawer. They went after Trump. And then on the flip side, Joe Biden, who had these classified documents that he never should have had. Trump was president. He was allowed to. Remember all of this. When you put all of that together, Joe Biden had them like strewn all over the place around Hunter, around the old red Corvette. Remember? I mean, you just can't make it up. This is really scary stuff. And you're right. It's very like sort of turning the storyline, trying to change the storyline. And sadly, they're very good mastering deflection. Fran, thank you very much. Dangerous times ahead. I agree. 1-800-848-9222. And we'll continue right after the break.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. This is the Rita Cosby Show.
And let's continue with your calls here on the Rita Cosby Show. Let's go to Susan in Corning on line 2. Susan, go ahead.
Yes, I'm talking about just, ridiculous lawfare against President Trump. It was sad. I was really furious today when, he had to pay that $5 million to the individual who couldn't even say what year she was, accusing him of rape in a dressing room at Bergdorf Goodman. But, she just didn't know what year or what time of the year it could have been. So how could he have even shaken hands with her if they can't put him in the same time and place, And
Susan,
then,
by the way, on that case, and I agree with you. And listen, I'm a big believer that obviously people who say that they have been raped or assaulted, obviously those are serious claims. They should be investigated. The people should be believed, but it does need to be investigated. And that case, I'll tell you, it does sound fishy. I mean, they say it happened in Bergdorf Goodman, in a dressing room in the middle of the day. Nah, I agree. That one's a fishy one.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Rita Cosby is on.
And as we are talking about the Democratic Socialists of America, which unveiled their big platform, and it's darn right crazy and darn right dangerous. Well, guess what? It's also something that's clearly on President Trump's radar. I mean, he's very concerned about it. Today he was in Pennsylvania. He talked about it. Earlier in the week, he was in Washington. He is obviously very concerned about the future of America, especially if the Democrats allow the socialists to further infiltrate their party. And they seem to be doing that. Today, I brought up a great example of Hakeem Jeffries, who's the House Minority Leader. There was this vote on Israel funding, which would have been a no-brainer and absolutely fund our great ally Israel with some military support. And yet, Hakeem Jeffries didn't say, hey, we're all going to work together, because when they all want to work together, it's like unanimous decision by the Democrats. They literally vote in a block. But today, Hakeem Jeffries put out a statement saying, here's my view. I'm going to support this bill that there should be funding for Israel, but I'm not going to tell you other Democrats how to vote. That's a nice way to say that he's scared of the Democratic Socialists. Because anybody else would say, hey, we should all vote together for this. This is a good thing, not obviously for just Israel, but for world security, for America's great ally, for the Middle East, for so many reasons. And yet he didn't say that. He just said, I'm voting for it, and everybody else feel free to vote however you choose. There won't be any repercussions. There won't be any pressure put on you. Don't worry a thing about that. That's not a big deal. It's only support of Israel. Don't worry about it. And that just speaks volumes of where the Democratic Party is. And this whole sort of stilted view of this, like, oh, we need to like let them, get help elsewhere. If you have mental health issues, you can just kind of stay in that homelessness circle, that homeless encampment, like that massive one that's building up by the USS Intrepid on the west side of New York. That's now 11 blocks long and has electricity. Isn't that lovely? What do they have? Uber Eats there too? And then you also have to look at just the policies of, we don't want to lock these people up. These people that have mental health problems, we'll just talk to them. We'll give them some help and put them back out on the streets. You need to feel sorry for them. Just like Tim Walz feeling sorry for this illegal from Laos who is a convicted, self-admitted pedophile. And Tim Walz seems to be crying over the fact that he was deported. The world really, truly is upside down. And here's President Trump not too long ago talking about socialism/communism. Take a listen.
Well, I think it's a big threat to our nation, actually, because it's not socialism, it's really communism. They use the word social democrat because it sounds so nice, but it's really communism you're talking about. I think it's the biggest threat to our nation there is, maybe since our founding. That includes World War I, World War II, September 11th. It includes the Pearl Harbor attack. I think this is the biggest threat to our nation. People will smile when I say that, but the smart people are going to say, he's probably right. It's basically introducing communism into the United States of America. There's never been anything so dangerous.
And here's a little bit more from President Trump. He talked about the history of communism.
One of the reasons I do so well with Hispanic people, I set a record, Republicans. I get great numbers for the election, helped me get elected in a landslide. The Hispanics, because a lot of them came from countries that were essentially communist. Whether you call them radical socialists or communists is not that much, but there's a little difference. When they say social democrats, we're social democrats, it sounds so nice. It's not nice. It's a very dangerous term. So I do talk about it, and I talk about it on TikTok, and I talk about it everywhere. I talk about it here. And you're right, it has become international, but it's never worked, and it's not going to work. What is working is the United States. So think of it, we have more jobs than we've ever had. People are making more money than they've ever made. I'm talking about workers now. I'm talking about workers. They're making higher salaries than they've ever made before. It's just the best system, and it's got flaws, but everything's going to have a little flaw, but it's been amazing. And when I watch what's happening, and I see these lowlifes they're lowlifes. I watch them. I know good people. I know quality people. These are essentially lowlifes. And when I see what they're talking, I think they're very dangerous in many ways. And I've said it, and then I said, boy, that's a pretty big statement. Then I realized, a couple of people said, I think you're probably right. I think this country, with this thing that's going around, is in more danger than it was during World War I, World War II. If you talk about September 11th, if you talk about Pearl Harbor, that was big danger. I think the concept of us going communist, because one thing that happens when you go communist, you never come back, never comes back. You die in squalor. You die a horrible death. You die in squalor, and it gets very evil and very nasty.
Not a happy ending. 1-800-848-9222. And you are listening to the Rita Cosby Show. I'm sure President Trump will probably talk about communism, the threat from socialism, all of that as he is addressing the country tomorrow night. It'll be interesting to see what he's going to talk about. A lot of people say it will be tied to some sort of election integrity. Maybe he'll talk about the SAVE Act, of course, which is about voter ID and making sure that elections are free and fair and that only American citizens vote. So there's a lot of big topics there on the agenda. Let's go to Joaquin in Pennsylvania on line 2. Go ahead, Joaquin.
Good evening, Rita. Just call me Wingnut Joaquin because I'm going to tell you something else. It ain't just
all right, go ahead. Bring it on, Joaquin. We love it. Go ahead.
It's not just communism and socialism. It's Islamism also. If we don't kick the third worlders out of our country, if we don't start deporting people in mass numbers, And if we don't start denaturalizing people like Mamdani and Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar and all these people and get them the hell out of here, our country is dead, you know. And again, as I pointed out once before, you know, our issue with Islam goes all the way back to the Pilgrims, and I wish I would have looked it up, but there was that boat that came back from the New World. It was a pilgrim ship, and it was taken by the they call them these, you know, the Barbary pirates, but it was Muslims, you know, and taken back to Africa and enslaved and took the cargo and everything, you know. So if in this Western world that we don't wake up and realize, I don't hate people. You know, when I grew up, I'm a bit older than you, and I've had friends, you know, and there's many, you know, I've had friends from many Hispanic friends from people from all cultures or whatever, but people used to assimilate into this country, and they became Americans, and they want to be Americans. So that's good and fine, you know. And when they talk this BS about slavery, you know that slavery actually, it's a 1619 project. That was a lie because the people that came here, that ship made 3 stops, South America and Kamala Harris's Caribbean, and those people were enslaved, but the ones that came here were indentured servants. And
but you have to admit there clearly was obviously slavery. I mean, I don't want to dispute history.
There was. There was.
But you got to, Joaquin, you got to fast forward to modern times. What's the message for today? Why are you going there?
What I'm saying is that we're allowing our society to be lied to about all this stuff. You know, when people say that they feel threatened by the American flag and whatever else, you had a couple callers, you know, and I have to say I think a lot of us are on the same page. You know, it's finally coming to the realization that, you know, we have to protect Western civilization is what we have to do.
Yeah, I agree. I agree between the threat of, you know, some of these values that are completely un-American that we're talking about, whether it's from some of the things coming in from those who are trying to undermine our country, whether it's from illegal immigration, or whether it's, you know, from the Democratic Socialists. And sometimes they're one and the same. It's really frightening. It is really, did you ever imagine that we would see people that seem to be wanting to undermine our country so proactively, Joaquin, and so publicly?
No, I have not. This is just so scary. You know, you had a caller a couple of weeks ago, and, you know, I'm a bit agnostic, but I've read the Bible like 3 times over and whatever else, and I see a lot of end times prophecies being fulfilled here, and especially this whole thing where the whole world is turning against Israel. You know, that's one of the things that it says, the world will eventually turn against Israel, you know, and then that will be the end, you know. So I'm sorry, but this is Western civilization that's on, you know, that's at stake right now, what we believe in. And I really don't care about NATO. I don't care about the European Union or any of our allies because they're all allowing their countries to be completely dominated.
Yeah, and we see what's happening to their countries as a result of that, Joaquin. I mean, they've got so many problems internally. They've got these no-go zones, you know, in places like France and elsewhere. I mean, all of those things are just beyond dangerous, Joaquin. And I think that creates just a bad cauldron. There is no doubt about it. We got to figure out a way to turn it around. Joaquin, thank you very much. It's always great. And I won't call you Wingnut Joaquin. There's no reason to tonight. Other nights sometimes, but not tonight. Joaquin. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Edward in New Jersey. Line 1. Go ahead, Edward.
Yes, Rita. I want to say, which I believe, and it's going to happen. You're not going to really believe this.
Okay, go ahead.
Trump is going to run for a 3rd time, and he will win. And he's going to have to do it because he won't be able to finish what he has to do for this country. But you realize that technically he can't. I mean, you know, even some of the great sort of scholars like Dershowitz and others,
I mean, he kind of plays around. He has a book saying, Trump's third term, but
he doesn't actually have to run and actually become the president. He runs for the people, for this country. They vote him in again, and then he could pass the baton on to the vice president. It's just to get back to the Democrats and make them fear, especially what.
By the way, Edward, can you imagine the fear that would go through? Even the thought of it is making them break out in hives.
That's why I'm saying that, and they will be put in their place and fear him, and not only Donald Trump, but fear us, American citizens.
Well, and you know what I will say? Obviously, that ain't going to happen. But I will say, would he like to?
So.
I think he would love
Rita,
to. I think he'd love to be president
Rita,
for life.
Say one more.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. And this is really from my heart, and actually, it's the truth. I don't know if you believe it or not. I knew Donald Trump was going to win. And I have proof of it.
And how did you know that? How did you know that?
Well, there is a scripture in the Bible. Now, I'm not trying to preach. I have a book that's taken from the Bible of the prophets and prophecies. And Jesus was the 13th prophet. So now, in the Bible, and this book I found, I had it for many years. I put it away. I moved maybe half a time.
So what, you predicted, Edward, you got to speed it up. So what, you predicted, right. You thought Trump...
There is his name, Trump's name, is in the scriptures 1 week before the crucifixion of Christ. It says, triumphantly, Christ riding in on a donkey into Israel 1 week before his crucifixion, which is Palm Sunday. And his name is written on that page. Not in the Bible, but in this book.
Well, and obviously his name is not in the Bible, Edward. But what I will say is, President Trump is clearly the man for the moment. He is clearly somebody who believes he can be a change maker in this world. And boy, is he ever. And he has been an extraordinarily consequential, effective president against all odds. And I can't think of anybody else at this moment that would be able to handle whether it's Iran, having the guts to seal the border, having the guts to take the fight, and all the incoming that he's had to deal with, all the slings and arrows along the way. That's not in the book, but it certainly is courage. And I will definitely give him that. He's not going to do a third term, but I don't see him, I see him being extremely effective in the next few years too, because first of all, he would love to see, the House and Senate stay in Republican hands. You could tell that's a huge priority for him. And if that could happen, at least then he wouldn't have all the roadblocks and all the other things that would clearly come with whether it's a Democratic House or a Democratic Senate. And with all these crazy socialists, there are people in America who I think it's going to backfire in a lot of ways. They do have a significant ardent group of followers, the Democratic Socialists, but there's a lot of Americans out there saying this is nuts. And it very well may backfire on the Democratic Party in November. We'll have to see what happens, but some of these things are just so crazy and I believe dangerous for America. And I think it's right that Trump and other Republicans are speaking out against it. That's an important thing, Edward, for sure. Edward, thank you. Very interesting. And now, everybody, we're going to continue with your calls after the break. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. And you're listening to The Rita Cosby Show. But first, support our heroes.
The Rita Cosby Show presents Support Our Heroes.
And this is the Tunnel to Towers Foundation Support Our Heroes segment with a very powerful story from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, where World War II veteran Laverne Severson turned 100 years young, and his family, friends, and fellow veterans all gathered together at the Freedom Foundation in Cedar Rapids to honor and celebrate his milestone birthday. The National World War II Museum says that fewer than 1% of World War II veterans remain alive today. Veteran Laverne served as a line medic during the war, and he was stationed in the Philippines. He said that as soon as he turned 18, it did not take about a month until he was going overseas. And he was asked, what's the secret of life? The veteran, again, who's now 100 years old, paused. He looked up and smiled, and he said, crackers and peanut butter in the morning for breakfast. I guess that replaces Wheaties. And everybody support America's military and first responder heroes. Donate $11 a month to the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Be sure to check them out. They are the absolute best at T2T.org. That's T, the number 2, T.org.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. It's the Rita Cosby Show.
And let's go to Eileen in New Jersey, line 1. Go ahead, Eileen.
Thank you so much for your integrity and clarity on how you're depicting the demonic socialism that took place and its total exposure to the evil elements that are taking place in this country.
Yeah, you know, it's shocking, Eileen. Did you ever think we'd see this at this point in our country? It's really frightening.
They're all hypnotized with such distraction, whether they're on drugs, whether they're frightened, whether they're disassociated with all the distractions. It's horrific. Psychologically, there's something really evil going on, and it's been perpetrated just even from what took place by the Capitol. You know that all these terrorists are being paid, and you're looking at sophisticated bribery now with the demonic socialism that's taking place. President Trump is clearly stating this is communism, and we have to take our news reporters and they have to challenge with real sophistication and objectivity when the specimen speaks as a mayor talking about expanding rape.
Yeah, no, you're right. And by the way, he says that that's why rapes are up. Mayor Mondani says it's because the definition's expanded. It can't be that there's crime.
Thanks for listening to The Rita Cosby Show. You can hear The Rita Cosby Show weeknights at 10 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?